to go. No. Hey, everybody. Dave Menz, Laundromat Millionaire from Cincinnati, Ohio. And I got a guy with me that you guys may recognize. He is the legend. He's the legend, the West Coast Beast. Oh, that's a new nickname I just gave you.
The West.
Jordan Berry, folks.
I don't know.
The legend, the West Coast Beast. That's like the best of both worlds. I think we just found a compromise. I want to know where Brian Henderson is. I mean, seriously, he's 30 seconds late already.
I know.
Brian,
what's going on here?
Where are you?
He has a life or something.
We have 2 likes, but nobody's commenting.
Or
wait, hide comments. No, I got them on. Okay. Yeah, I see yours.
All right. We're on. I'm on the YouTube and it says 3 people are waiting. So I don't know if it hasn't let people on yet, but. All right.
Wonder if I'd.
Well, I commented on it and it popped up on here. So should go, I think.
Can you see my comment?
Yeah, it says, oh yeah, we're good. We're live now.
Okay.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
Yeah, we got 4 eyes. That's good. 4 eyeballs.
Yeah, sweet.
All
well,
right.
Hey, man, I'm excited. Talking laundromats. There's like really nothing better on a Thursday. What is it, Wednesday? I don't even know what day it is. Wednesday? Nothing better to do.
Just because our time zones are different doesn't mean our days are different. I mean,
yeah, what day is it?
Me up. I can't hardly keep track of what day it is, let alone what time. So
I know.
Don't mess me up there.
Yeah, did I see that it snowed over there today?
It did snow there today. Actually, I forgot. That was going to be my intro. Welcome from Cincinnati, Ohio, where we got 1 inch of snow on April 21st. And the good news is if it's good news. Hey, everyone. Hey, Steven. Uh-oh, here we go again with this name. Perdrama Stefanos. I think they told us to call him Steven or something last time. Help us out a little bit. That's a mouthful. We'll call you Bob or something. And hey, Trenton, how are you? Southwest Missouri. And Stacy is with us. I would expect nothing less. How are you, Stacy? Good to have you with us today. So I am going to ramble for a minute, but I have an exciting mix tonight because I'll be honest with you, I was going to do it anyways. But I asked Jordan if I could put him on the spot, and he allowed me. He said I could, and I was going to do it anyways. So I'm going to give it a second for a few more people to jump in here because I don't want them to miss this. This is going to be epic. Not really, but anyways.
Man, I'm nervous now.
So pressure's on.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's what happens when you get on my YouTube channel and not yours.
My camera go all blurry.
Yeah, it's done that a few times.
I don't know what the deal is. I'm better looking blurry though, so it works out nice.
Hey, maybe I can get me one of those cameras. So, guys, a few quick housekeeping things. Shameless plugs here. First of all, Jordan Berry, the Laundromat resource legend. First of all, his podcast surpassed 50 episodes. And I don't know how much you guys know about podcasts, but I'm not sure what the percentages is, but I know it's like really high that they don't make it to 10.
Yeah.
So let me tell you something. We all need to give Jordan a hand, seriously, because like the amount of work that goes into it is pretty amazing. And not only did he reach 50, but he actually exceeded it because he's now at 52.
52. That's like a full
52.
Year. I was like,
52 is a full year, even if it's not. He's like,
not
what'd you say on your
year.
Podcast? It's a week or short or something like that.
I think I started like May, right at the beginning of May last year. But I started
yeah. So anyway,
episodes, so yeah, big deal.
Right. So yeah, congratulations, man. Because I like to joke around, but in all seriousness, that's pretty amazing stuff. I'm proud of you, and I get a ton of value out of it, and I know other people do. And if I'm honest, my favorite episode is still number 2, and I'm not at all biased.
Yes.
So, anyways, so congratulations.
Thank you.
The next thing that I will say is that his most recent episode, not that any are better than others, number 2, his most recent episode was pretty freaking amazing because he had, who'd you have on number 52?
Brian Wallace, President and CEO of the Coin Laundry Association, probably the most
Brian Wallace.
influential person in the industry right now, and for a while,
Yep.
probably. So
I'd
super
say a long time.
cool. You know, what's funny is that I try to pull out valuable parts of each interview because some people can't or don't want to watch the whole thing, especially on YouTube.
Mhm.
And so I try to put some segments of it. And I literally have videos going out 2 times a day, every day this week, just because there was so much good stuff in there that there was just too much. So I just, chopped it all up, and there's a lot of videos going out. So make sure if you're into podcasts, check out the podcast episode with Brian Wallace, because it's a good one.
Yep. It was definitely one of the best for sure. I'm not sure who gets to rank them, but I guess in my opinion, I get to rank them.
That's right.
So anyway, check that out because it's an hour and a half of packed laundry talk, as they all are. Some of them are a little longer. Pretty sure mine was because Logan likes to talk. So anyway, we got another one of these scheduled. This live Q&A, free, 90 minutes long. We got another one scheduled for next month, but you got to stick around to us around a little bit if you want the date and the time on that.
What a teaser. Wow.
Such total. And a quick shout out. If you haven't joined my Laundromat Millionaire Facebook group, please do that. Would love to have you guys. I know a lot of you are in it. If you're not, then you should join. Because you're missing out. And Laundromat Resource Forum, if you're not on that, you're missing out too. Let me see if I can do this. Jump on there and ask a question and answer a question because I am pumped.
Oh my gosh.
How'd I do, guys? Let me know how I did in the comments section.
So
you know what I'm talking about?
So good.
Then you're following Jordan closely enough.
Man, if I was half that cool when I said it, I'd be happy, man.
Well, you're half the size when you say it. I don't know if that means anything.
That's funny.
Yeah, and so so we're gonna give you the date and time, and before too long, before I get in these questions with Jordan, and then we're gonna jump in and take your questions. Last thing is shameless plug. I launched my podcast, Laundromat Millionaire Business Podcast. I launched it. You got to listen to it. You don't have to, but me and Carla rambled, mostly Carla. I don't really like to talk.
Yeah, right.
First couple.
I was there, and I will vouch for Carla. It was you rambling.
We had a legendary guest host, maybe named last name Barry, first name Jordan. He was pretty amazing. He made us sound super smart, or at least smarter than we are. That was pretty amazing. If you haven't checked out that podcast, please do that. We got a couple other great guests. I don't know if any of you guys know Art Yeager. He's definitely a laundromat guy. He was my most recent interview. And we're going to be talking to people in the industry and out of the industry. So I only got 4 podcasts out there. I got a long ways to go to get to 52. And if Jordan doesn't quit, then I'm never going to catch him. So anyway, jump on there. I think there's both of our podcasts are all on all the streaming channels and oh my gosh, what do they call those things? Podcast platforms. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, the platforms. All of your favorites, they're on there. We both put them on our YouTube channel with video. So check those out. We don't make any money off of this stuff, or if we do, it's pennies. We're just trying to help you guys out and bring value. So anyway, check those out because we're both pretty excited. We're both working pretty hard to bring value to the industry. All right, let's jump into it. Who's ready for Jordan Berry to be put on the spot, folks?
Oh, man.
Oh, everybody raise their hand. I saw it. Yeah. All right.
Scary.
Here we go. I got 5 questions for you. And then, folks, we're going to jump into your questions.
Yeah.
Go start posting them in the comments section.
Yeah, I was going to say, get those questions rolling. If you got questions, let's get them out there. And also, I say this every time, but my favorite part of this whole thing is, believe it or not getting grilled by Dave. It is your conversations happening in the comment section over there. So make sure you're commenting. And yes, Stacy, props to Carla. She is awesome. She's a rock star.
She is.
And, these guys together. I mean, you guys together have really good chemistry, and you guys put on a really, really not just like a valuable interviews that you've been doing, but also engagingly valuable, which is hard to do. And I know it's really hard to be engaging and give really good content. So Laundromat Millionaire podcast, you guys got to get on it for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's jump into it and help some people. But before we help some people, the reason I wanted to do this, other than just like I just like to watch Jordan squirm a little bit right now, because he's super nervous of what I'm doing. And if anybody that knows me knows that I don't really have too many limits. Nobody can tell me what to do, is kind of what I tell people. But anyway, I'm going to be nice. Deep breath, calm down. Here we go. Number one, what is your most treasured possession?
My most treasured possession.
Material possessions. You cannot say lame things like my wife and my kids and that kind of stuff. It's a material possession. Nobody's going to think you're materialistic.
Lame.
No. You.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'm like, whoa, never mind.
Put you on the spot now.
Yep.
Hey, dude.
What is your most treasured possession?
Treasured possession. That's a good question. Oh, you know what it is? This is going to sound really nerdy and dorky, and I was telling you about this a while ago, but I actually got this. It's a digital notepad, e-ink digital notepad. And I carry this thing everywhere I go, and my life is run by it now. It's called Remarkable 2.
Yeah.
It's way, way too much money, but it is seriously super cool, and it's definitely changed the game in terms of productivity and I'm not like super organized, but it's kept me really organized. So I don't know why I'm blurry again, but yeah, so I would say that.
Awesome. Guys, don't forget to post your questions for us, and we will get some more activity, I'm sure. But we already got a pretty good group heading in, for sure. So yeah, post your questions in the comments section. Next question. What is your guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure. Man, that's a good, you know what it is? You're just trying to make me sound like a huge dork right now because it's working.
Well, I'm not answering the questions. I'm just asking them.
You know what's funny is, okay, so I don't eat sugar. I don't, my diet is like a sugarless pesca vegan. That's what I call it. I eat vegan plus fish, no sugar. So it's not food related, but you know what it is? My guilty pleasure is I watch chess YouTube channels. That's like my chess YouTube channels. Yeah. That's my guilty. Like
what to do with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I watch chess games and I watch, I don't know, chess lessons and stuff. I don't know. I like chess.
So, okay. So you play chess, I hope, at least, right?
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit.
Well, it's at least educational. All right.
Yeah.
We'll let you off a little slack there. All right. Next one. Don't forget to post your questions, guys.
Embarrassing.
Next question. We're getting to know Jordan Berry. If any of you are just jumping in, I see if you are. If you're just jumping in right now, we're getting ready to know Jordan Berry. We're getting to know Jordan Berry a little bit more with some questions, and I'm enjoying making him feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Which talent would you most like to have that you do not have?
Oh, that's a really good question. What talent would I like to have? You know what I'd like to be able to sing well, and I'm just not a good singer. I cannot carry a tune or anything. It's bad. Yeah, it's bad.
Can't carry a tune with a bucket.
No, and I like singing. I just can't do it. I do, but it to the detriment of everybody else around me.
Is anyone in your family a good singer?
Yeah, my brother
just missed you.
Yeah, my brother John, who does Laundromat Resource Marketing with me, he's a worship pastor, so he leads worship, and he's like super good. I don't know what happened to me. But
gotcha.
It's
in the genes. It just skipped you.
It's there.
Well, you both clearly got the beard gene, so that's a good thing, I guess, because you guys have. You guys can grow some serious beards. Yeah. All right, we're gonna get through these. One of them is a little bit more serious. This next one's semi-serious. Okay, you have $100,000. You have to donate or to a or own charity. What do you do?
Wait, you kind of broke up a little bit. $100,000 and have to donate to a charity or create a charity?
Correct.
What do? I donate it to a charity. Like what charity would I? Man, good.
Are you going to start a charity?
Good question. I mean, I would love to start a charity. I don't know that $100,000 is going to get me there, but probably something real practical, like that something that's practical that will dramatically improve people's lives, like clean water for people who don't have clean water, or sustainable food sources for people who don't have food, something like that. Something that's just real practical. There's just so many people who don't have like basic stuff that would dramatically improve their lives if they had it, that I feel like if I was going to do something, I mean, we do that anyways, but that's probably where it would go to.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can agree with you there. All right, last one. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Best piece of advice I've ever been given. Man,
Was it? I don't know if it was advice, but was that when I told you that you should say yes to asking when I asked you if you would do this with me?
Yeah.
Is that it?
I mean, maybe that's
Maybe.
up there. It's up there.
Up there.
My mom used to, when I was a kid and like kind of growing up, my mom always would tell me, you should use what God has given you to make other people feel good about themselves. And I feel like just trying to be a positive person and injecting joy into people's lives and injecting value into people, at points in time. Like we all have points in time where we just don't feel valuable or we just don't feel good. And so I always think that's helped me kind of navigate relationships, even in difficult relationships. So that's always stuck with me. But I've been given a lot of really great advice. It's hard to pick one, but that's probably what I get.
Yeah. Well, advice from mom is usually a good place to start.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's help some laundromat owners. What do you say?
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it.
Any questions that jump out to you? We're starting to get some pretty good ones in there.
Here's a little softball one. During the purchase of a laundromat, are quarters included in the purchase, or is it additional that you need to cut a check for those or buy those for them? So you want to do that?
Yeah.
You want me to take it?
Sure. Yeah, sure, definitely. Yeah. No, they are not included. I mean, obviously you can write anything into a contract, of course. But no, they are not typically included. Usually in most cases, the person you're buying the laundromat from doesn't want the quarters, who wants to take $3,000 worth of quarters home. So in my case, every time I bought it, I just wrote them a separate check or, for the quarters, and we just counted them there just right after closing. We went to the store, counted them out in a machine, and I just wrote them a check, and they just left them in the changer. I mean, we put them back in the changer, I guess, because we counted them.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, no, I mean, you can write and you can negotiate anything for the most part. So it doesn't mean you couldn't. I think it's one of those things that a lot of people don't think about, to be honest with you. So it is a softball for you and I, but I think it's actually a great question. Because I actually I've talked to a few people that closed out a laundromat, exchanged keys, went to the store, and the changer was empty. And like the old owner wasn't meeting them there, which I've always had them do that, but they weren't meeting them there, and they just assumed it was full. They didn't realize it didn't come with them, and like they figured it out, I would imagine, pretty quickly. But can you imagine not being prepared for that? You just bought the place, you don't know what you don't know, and all of a sudden you got to run to the bank and buy as many quarters as they'll sell you, and they're probably not going to have 4,000 sitting around.
Yeah, no,
I mean, that would I'd catch off guard real quick.
Yeah, it's a serious issue for sure. And yeah, actually, I wrote a blog post a long time ago. It's been buried somewhere on the Laundromat Resource blog, but about costs that nobody talks about that you need to expect. Things like buying quarters, things like utility deposits and rent deposit. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of things that costs that you may not even realize you're going to have, and that's a big part of it. So for sure. My cousin just texted me. He's like, chess, really? I guess he's watching. Now it's in the family. Great.
Oh, wait a second. What's your cousin's name?
His name's Dustin. I haven't seen him on there at all. So
Dustin, get in the comments section. Tell us some good stuff about Jordan.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Hold on a second.
A cousin, he's got stories. We know that. He's got stories.
He does.
All right. Which is not hard to do.
Let's talk about, there's enough where you can just kind of go down the line. How often do you need to do like a major clean out of lint for your dryers and your ducts and that kind of thing? How often do you need to do that?
Yeah, if you're referencing the dryers, obviously you should be cleaning your lint screens every day, if not multiple times a day in most cases. When you're talking to dryer vents, pulling panels off, things like that, it depends on your dryers. And this may shock a few people that are even more experienced. Older dryers, it's something you should really do every year at a minimum. And I would recommend having someone professionally clean your vents, your ductwork, every year at a minimum. And it depends on the design too, because I've seen some pretty poorly designed vents, with 690s, and I'm like, what in the world? Like who who thought this through?
Right.
And so, I think the design is an issue of the dryers, and I think the design of your ventilation system is a factor for sure. But I would say like at a minimum once a year, or at a maximum once a year, I should say. At a minimum, I know people that do it, more frequently than that. When it comes to taking panels off of dryers and actually cleaning them, like what most people would consider like a deep clean of the lint, it depends on your dryers. A lot of the more modernized dryers, what would probably surprise a few people is that you don't ever need to do it if you have proper makeup air. The dryers that are designed nowadays, they don't really plug up and clog up a lot of lint in the dryer itself. Now the vents are always going to have some no matter what. But that may surprise a few people. I have actually axial airflow dryers from Hipsch. Not to promote Hipsch, but just the design of the dryers. We have dryers that are 5-6 years old, and we check them every once in a while, and there is nothing in there. So I think the manufacturers in general in the industry are getting better at that. But the older they are, and the worse the design, then the more often you should do something like that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree totally. And I'd include too, one of the things that nobody ever really told me about is the other thing that gets jammed up with lint a lot is the coin mechanisms on the dryer sometimes, especially if they're a little bit older. Even my newer dryers, they'll get, lint jammed up in the coins. So you got to pop off that panel and clear out the coin drop every now and then, just so the quarters will roll freely. But yeah, totally. And like you were saying, the more angles there are in those dryer vents, just think about it. Every angle is an opportunity for lint to stick. And so the more that stick to those angles, the more buildup is going to get. And the more that's there, the faster the buildup happens. So the more angles there are, the more often you need to clean it up. If it's a pretty straight shot up and out, then you're in pretty good shape for a while, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's true. Another thing I'll add is one of the things my distributor told me years ago, which I would have never known if he didn't tell me. And he's an equipment guy, so obviously ventilation, things like that is kind of his thing. He told me that a lot of the reasons that the coin mechs you're referring to have such severe lint buildup is from a lack of makeup air. So they're I would say pretty conservatively 50 to 75% of the industry doesn't have enough makeup air.
Do you want to explain that? Because that comes up a lot, actually, makeup air, and like what that is, and what do you mean by that?
Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, basically the quick version of it is it's how your dryer breathes. And so the analogy I always use is, you're at a birthday party, you ask your kid to blow out candles on a birthday cake. What's the first thing they do? They go, and they breathe in. And then to blow out the candles, they blow out. And so that's essentially what your dryer is doing is trying to breathe in air to produce, heat and produce, and then the exhaust goes out the ventilation system. So it's breathing in and breathing out. When it tries to breathe in, if it's having trouble breathing in, meaning if it can't get enough makeup air, let's use an analogy we all know right now, like COVID. Let's say you have 2 masks on, right? And you're trying to get your breath, but you're having trouble, then you're all of a sudden, instead of your mouth just breathing in air from right in front of your mouth, if you have a mask on, and I can't cover it up right now, but if you have a mask on and it's blocking your mouth, we're still trying to breathe in. You're not going to get as much because of the cloth. So what's going to happen is your body's going to pull air from the sides and from the top of the mask. In other words, you're going to get in, you're going to suck air as hard as you can and pull it from anywhere you can. And so what ends up happening is it pulls it from all these little crevices. And a crevice is, a coin mech in some cases has a little hole, usually multiple holes. And so it's going to suck from wherever it can because it's just trying to breathe. I mean, it's literally like a person trying to breathe in and not getting proper oxygen. So one, it's really hard on your dryers. I mean, it'll wear them out over time. It's really not good for them. It's really not safe, to be honest with you. But it definitely causes lint buildup in your coin mechs. And so if you have, once again, a lot of times in older stores, even if you put new machines in, a lot of times if you don't fix the makeup air and somebody doesn't explain to you how important it is, then you don't even know that you don't have proper makeup air, is my point in a lot of cases. So if you're getting tremendous excessive buildup in your coin mechs of lint, that's almost the first place to always check, is that your dryers have proper makeup air. So I don't know if I talked a little bit too much about that, but didn't want to go too deep.
Fascinating.
Enthralling.
Yeah. You're gonna have to come up with a new analogy because pretty soon kids aren't gonna know what you mean by blowing out candles on a birthday cake, because I'm pretty sure that's going away now post-COVID. No more.
Do they have an app for that?
Yeah, exactly.
Have an app.
All right.
Candles on.
Yeah.
Candles on. Candles.
Yeah. Somebody asked, should first-time buyers use a broker first time around? Do you need to use a broker? Do you not need to use a broker?
Well, yeah. Should they use a broker? I think what I would tell a first-time buyer, and I'm making assumptions that you don't have a proper education and you don't know the industry, which is probably true in most cases. I mean, you need to have someone mentoring you and guiding you through the process because you don't know what you don't know. So could that be a broker? Sure, absolutely. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Could be just a distributor, could be a coach, could be a friend that's been in the business for 20 years that just wants to help you out. What I think a little bit bigger picture of what I would say is just find somebody to mentor you through the process. And then the other thing I would say is don't forget that you're still just getting one person's opinion. Even if it is a distributor or a coach, or even if you pay them or not pay them or whatever, just keep in mind it's one person's opinion. And so make sure that they're doing the things that you want to do actively, because you're getting advice from their frame of reference. And so if they're not conducting business the way you would want to conduct business, or maybe they've been in the laundromat business for 30 years, but owned one store for 30 years that they inherited, well, I mean, how valuable are they as a mentor? I'm not saying they're not valuable. I'm just saying to take those things into account when choosing that person. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think it's a good idea. Brokers, like anything, there's good ones and there's bad ones. There's honest ones and there's dishonest ones. So, kind of do your homework, do your vetting, look at reviews, reputation, things like that. Because, I mean, real quickly, would I rather you not have a broker than have a bad one? Yeah, I'd rather you not have one at all, because they may insinuate that they have your best interest at heart, and they may not. And then the last thing to remember is just because a broker is involved in the transaction, yeah, right. Just because a broker is involved in the transaction and they are giving you advice doesn't mean that they have your best interest at heart. Because if they're a seller's broker and they were hired by the seller, then their job is to protect the seller. So just because somebody's involved, it's kind of like an attorney, just because somebody's involved that is an attorney or is a broker, I mean, they can give you their opinion, but it's a pretty jaded opinion because they're actually coming from the other side of the table. But what do you think about that?
Yeah. I agree with pretty much everything you said. I think the most important thing is that you got somebody, at least one person, preferably more than one person on your side, helping you through that process, helping you navigate. The thing, I'm saying this as I'm a broker, so I feel like I can say this. Sure. There is a conflict of interest in the way the relationship is set up, right? And so, or there can be. So, if it's, and as a broker, your interest should go before our own. That's easier said than done, and some brokers do that, some don't, right? There's good and there's bad. That's why you need to vet everybody as much as you can. But, a broker only gets paid if you buy a laundromat. So if it's, coming down to it and they put in a lot of work and it's questionable as to whether or not it's in your best interest, a broker may push you where maybe they shouldn't, or maybe it's questionable if they should. So I always recommend, even if you use a broker, have a neutral third party who knows the business helping you out throughout the process, giving you another, having another set of eyes looking at stuff and giving you input on that. And a good, okay, so I'll just throw a recommendation. I mean, Dave Laundromat Millionaire Menz is incredible consultant. So, check out his consulting stuff. Another good source of that is actually a laundromat specific lender, because a laundromat specific lender is going to know the business, but they're also kind of your partner, right? If they're lending you money, they want to make sure you're succeeding. So that can be another really great, and their interest is aligned with yours as opposed to maybe say like a broker. So that's what I would say about that. I don't think that there's necessarily, a broker could be a great resource, but I don't think you have to go through a broker at all.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I think if you're new to the industry and you don't have somebody on your side that knows the industry, that's at least giving you advice, not that you have to take it, then you're, I was just talking to someone on the phone today, and I was telling them about kind of a horror story situation, a client I'm working with, a coaching client, and they bought a $650,000 laundromat, and they bought it based on basically a bunch of free information they found online from a bunch of different sources. And they saw, hey, looks like laundromats are around anywhere from 3 to 5x multiples of net operating income. They're asking 5x, seems fair. They paid 5x. Well, that's the top of the industry. I mean, that doesn't mean all laundromats are 5x multiple. And long story short, they paid $650,000 for a laundromat that was probably worth $250,000. And they found out 6 weeks later, when they were like, they didn't know what they didn't know, but they knew something wasn't right. Like, they were losing their shirts from day one. And it was just an absolutely awful situation. And I just had to look at them and be like, the day you closed on this, you let $400,000 on fire. I mean, you just did.
Tough.
Yeah. So, I mean,
quick plug on that, because that's happened more than once. It happened to me, not that bad, but I've heard that similar story. But quick plug is tomorrow. I'm actually doing a free live webinar. I do one every week, and this one's on how to analyze a laundromat deal. So if that's a place that you're in your journey, and you want to talk about that, we go into a lot of detail and a lot of depth. Not selling anything. It's free. It's live. You can ask questions. So you can go to laundromatresource.com. Form is right at the top of the page. You can sign up there.
And just so you guys know, I know he changes the topic, but he does those every Thursday. He has different topics, so that's perfect timing if you're interested in that. But he has different ones, and they're free, and they're every Thursday. Are they at the same time all the time?
Yeah, 4 o'clock Best Coast time.
So 7 o'clock real time.
Real time, whatever. Hey, Daryl wants to know what's the most influential book you've ever read.
Oh, without question, the most influential book I've ever read is the Bible. First of all, and I know that may sound like a cop out, but I'm a Christian. If you're not, then that's okay. We can be friends and everything. I'm not gonna push my faith on you, but that's who I am to my core, and it's absolutely the most influential book in my life. Not even close. That being said, I'm guessing that probably wasn't quite your question. I'm guessing it was more business based. One thing I will tell you is that for sure there is a lot of great knowledge and experience and information even about running a business in the right context, even in the Bible, how to conduct yourself in life, so on and so forth. So a lot of people think the Bible is something that it's not a lot of times, but I'll leave that be. Business related.
You think about that.
Single. Okay, go ahead.
I'll echo, the Bible. We'll just throw it out. It's like the New York Times bestseller. You just don't put it on there anymore because it just keeps spending, right? But seriously, for me, the most influential book that I've read is probably 4 Disciplines of Execution. I think I brought this up maybe at the last one too. But man, that book, and if you don't know the book, it's basically like how to get yourself to do stuff that matters and perform on a high level consistently. And I think that's something that I know I've struggled with. I can go in bursts. I'm like really good at going in bursts at high level, doing a lot of work It's really
Mhm.
meaningful. And then I lose steam. And this book is all about doing things at a high level consistently. So 4 Disciplines of Execution. You haven't read
I
it
have
yet.
not I
I
have not read
recommend it.
that book, so
I
I'm going to
recommend
put that on my list for sure. Yeah, it might sound like a total cop out again, but I gotta just be honest. And um, I think mine is Rich Dad Poor Dad.
I was going to say, I can only read
Um,
one right behind you. So,
yeah, I think it is. I mean, I can't think of another one, and it's certainly way, way up there. And I know it's like so popular. It's like everyone answers the same thing, Rich Dad Poor Dad. The reality is, if you haven't read that book and you're in business for yourself, you're crazy. And if you haven't read that book and you're not in business for yourself, you're still crazy, because it will
yeah.
change your life, even if you don't desire to run a business or own a business. Just the mentality and the approach, and he has many other Robert Kiyosaki has many other books that are very great as well,
Yeah.
that will just make you think differently versus the traditional thinking of how we're taught in school and just society in general. So I don't know if there was any one thing in the book that was just like aha moment for business. It was just like it was packed full of aha moments for life.
Yeah.
So it really changed my thinking, and I think part of it too was the age. I didn't grow up with a great financial education, or many financial mentors, if you will. Um, and I think part of it too was, I mean, I read it in my like early to mid 20s, kind of an influential time in my life where I was trying to figure out who I was and what I was, and I knew I wanted to be in business, and just one of those books that hit me at the right time, the right place. I think it would have still hit me hard at later in life or even earlier. But I think that's the one I would have to answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Awesome
somebody,
book.
where is it? Cries in, and I'm not sure if that's somebody we know or not. I don't
That's
recognize the name,
Daryl.
but oh, that's Daryl. Okay. So he said,
Mhm.
"What's your opinion of dollar coin store versus quarter?" I don't think you have dollar coin, but that doesn't mean you're not allowed to have an opinion. What's your opinion?
I don't have dollar coin. My opinion is if your prices are up there high enough where people are spending more time putting quarters in than dollars or than doing their actual laundry, then maybe you should go dollar coin or maybe look into more of a hybrid system and incentivize the card system part of it. I think that there obviously dollar coin versus quarter has been kind of a hotly debated topic on forums and on Facebook groups and stuff like that. I think you know it doesn't matter what I think, and I think it doesn't matter what other people on the forums think. It matters what your customers think, and what works for you also in terms of managing your business. But your customers are the ones that are dictating, right? If you can make it easier to do their laundry by them putting in, $6 coins as opposed to what is that, 24 quarters, right? And that is the thing that makes people come to your laundromat quicker or like more likely to come to your laundromat, then man, go dollar coin. Or if you have to collect every other day because your coin boxes are jam packed, then first of all, dude, get on this live Q&A with us and tell us how you did it. But second of all, that might be a good time for you to go to dollar coin. That way you're not having to be there every other day collecting quarters and all that. So I don't know that I have a strong preference either way, but I do think that the decisions like that I make, I try to put customers first, and then second, what's going to help me manage more efficiently, so that I can, spend more time on my business than in my business. And I would say collecting coins is working in your business. Something you got to do if you have a coin store, but still working in your business. So that's what I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, so I'm going to answer the question in a very literal sense, because a lot of times a question like this gets tricked and manipulated, not intentionally, but just people go off in the ditch because there's so many payment systems. The literal question was dollar coins or quarters, which
Mhm.
means he didn't ask about anything else. So that's how I'm going to literally answer the question, because I think that's important in context. The reason I say this is every payment system has its pros and cons. I mean, even quarters have a pro of a sense of everyone has them in their pocket. Like, people don't carry around dollar coins. People carry on credit cards. But I mean, so in the context of that, what I tell people, and by the way, I have $2 coin stores, and my other two will be dollar coin very soon. They're dollar coin hybrid. So I have fast card in them with a dollar coin. So in the dollar coin quarter context, it's one of the few situations in our business when it's win-win for everyone involved. What I mean by that is it's a win for the owner because it improves your management systems and makes it easier. It increases capacity of your money boxes, increases capacity of your change machine, allows you to not have to collect as often, as you mentioned. These are all pros for the business owner from a management perspective. The pros for the customer is exactly the same, just a little bit tweaked a little different in the sense of they have to handle less coins. Like you said, 10 coins for a $10 machine or 40 coins for, I mean, that's a win-win for the owner and the customer. And in many situations in business, it might be 70-30, but a lot of times they're win-lose, and quite frankly, most decisions we as business owners and operators and managers have to make, there's usually a winner and a loser in the scenario. And I'll just throw out like a card system, for example. I mean, is it good for the customers? Well, maybe if you raise the prices to cover the cost of it, then it's a convenience, but is it a win? Is it a loss? And then for the owner, these card systems are very expensive. So it might be a win from a management perspective, but also a loss because of the costs associated with installing it and things like that. So my point is, in a dollar coin quarter situation, I think it's one of the few situations where the only con, and I've talked about this a lot and I've researched it a lot, the only con I can come up with is that you have to price in dollar increments. And I think that's way over exaggerated. And I can say this because I've done it. Pricing in dollar increments is just not an issue. Raising prices in dollar increments is just not an issue. I've raised the top loader from $2 to $3. That's a 50% increase, which is a pretty aggressive price increase on any size machine. And it just wasn't an issue. Now, could I go from 3 to 4? Well, I think if I can go from 2 to 3, which is a 50% increase, I think I could go to 3 to 4. I'm not saying to do it in the same month, but the point is a lot of people say that that's like the deterrent. That's the reason to not do it. And it's a legitimate question. It's a legitimate concern because you have less flexibility in your payment systems. I mean, that's indisputable. But so that's my thought on it. Having a dollar coin system, especially with the prices and inflation and the fact that the quarter has been such a great workhorse for our industry for 40 or 50 years, it can't be a workhorse for us for 80 years because of inflation, and it probably shouldn't have been for 40.
Yeah.
So there's many options that are great, but when you're looking at quarter dollar coin and that's the only conversation, I think a dollar coin is a win-win for everybody involved. And really the only con, so to speak, like it's a con that people discuss, but in real life, I've done it and it's just not a con. It's just not an issue. People don't care. That being said, my stores are, kind of the higher end of the value proposition. So, I mean, my customers and my clientele aren't as price conscious as, maybe some markets and some operations, and we're fully attended and, we keep our stores pretty nice and stuff. So our customers aren't as price sensitive. I mean, I would never say everybody needs to do anything. So do I think everybody running on quarters should switch dollar coins? No. If you're in a super tight market price wise and your value proposition isn't that great, then you probably want to look at fixing other things in your store first. But I do think there's a place for dollar coin in our industry. I think as far as coin is concerned, I think it's absolutely the future of our industry. Will we ever graduate away from that to where coins aren't a part of our industry? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it'll happen at some point, maybe in my lifetime, maybe not. But anyway,
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. I've done it, so
I got one
I
that's
don't regret it.
right in your wheelhouse here. Someone asked, "What's the best way to improve margins when you first take over a store?" While you're thinking about that, my grandma texted me and said she's watching. So hi, Granny.
Oh,
Family affair
Granny.
today. I don't know what's happening.
Okay, now I want the granny and the cousin to jump in the comments section. Give me some serious dirt. If you're not comfortable with YouTube and you don't want to do that, that's fine. Just email me, Dave at Laundromat Millionaire. I'll be glad to share them next month. I'm just kind of in an honoring mood today, if you haven't noticed.
Yeah, I can tell.
Seriously
taking
though,
over on.
Granny, I would imagine you had something to do with raising this fine young man. High character individual, as you know. Great job. Seriously, great job. What's the question?
Thanks. Best way to improve margins when you first take over a laundromat?
Oh my goodness, there's so many of them, and obviously it's unique. It's unique that situation. I mean, if it's if already a well-run store, meaning it already has newer equipment, it's more of like a turnkey situation, then you have less opportunity to do that. But I would like just a general statement I would make is I think probably 90 to 95% of our industry is underpriced. Some more drastic than others. So the chances of you taking over a store that's not underpriced is pretty slim. So honestly, when you take over the store, you're going to put your own flavor on it. You're going to introduce yourself people as a new owner, and you're going to keep babies and all this stuff, and that's great and everything. But and I'm not saying to do it in the first week, but honestly, just getting your prices where they need to be in alignment with your value proposition. I mean, there's really not a better way to raise your price. Yeah, you can raise your margins. You can lower expenses, and that'll help raise your margins. You can put in new equipment and energy efficiency. It allows you to increase your VEN prices, and that would probably be number two. If you have equipment that's over 12 to 15 years old or older, putting in new equipment is almost always going to make your business healthier, even when you take the investment into consideration. And I was just having this conversation today with somebody that I'm coaching, and I was explaining to them, they were explaining to me how they're, replacing their equipment in phases because they can't afford it and all this stuff. And then they proceeded to tell me that they were, I think they were running 20 or 25-year-old equipment. So we had a conversation about how replacement can allow you to increase your VIN price by, pretty conservatively 15 to 20% in a lot of cases. And so by the time you factor that in, and then depreciation and ADA credits, and things like that, and then you lower your utility expenses as a percentage of sales, all these things go to the bottom line. All these things improve your margins. So
I love that advice.
I don't know if I have just one, honestly. Like, I mean, I
No,
could
I
go all
mean,
day.
yeah, well, that's what I was saying. It's kind of in your wheelhouse. But I love that advice of, hey, take a look at your prices first and foremost, And I think right when you take over is a really good time to do that. And while you're doing that, I mean, you kind of mentioned this, but while you're doing that, look for quick ways to improve the value of what you're offering. Maybe it's doing a deep clean of that store. Maybe it's slapping some paint on the wall. I mean, really, it depends on the situation, that you're walking into. Like you mentioned, is it turnkey, or are you adding a lot of value to it? But look for quick wins. So anything you can do to make the place cleaner, brighter, just newer feeling, whether that's putting in new equipment or just slapping paint on the wall that, gives it a fresh feel. Anything that you can do, to make it more comfortable for your customers, all that stuff, all that helps customers. It kind of eases them, as you're raising the prices. It shows them you're not just trying to take from them, you're also giving, and you're giving value. So I love that, though. I love that advice of take a look at your prices and take a look at ways to raise it. Because that's a quick win right there if you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only reason I brought it up first thing is I'm not like go to price first kind of guy. I'm about go to value first and then make your prices commensurate. One reason I say that is I think in most cases across the industry, we are so underpriced. It's like disgusting. It's ridiculous. So it's something that's needed. And it's so common, I guess.
Yeah. Somebody's doing a retool and they have these 25-year-old washers. They want to know, is it worth it to try to sell that equipment? Are there used equipment brokers? You got any input on that?
Yeah, I mean, 25-year-old equipment, I mean, it's probably it's definitely more valuable as parts than anything. Because a lot of those parts are probably obsolete or could be obsolete, or if they're not obsolete, they're at least, when you get 25-year-old equipment, they might technically still make the OEM parts for them, but they will also rake you across the coals. So it's probably more valuable in that environment if you find someone that's running those machines and they have a storage unit where they can put them and, kind of have a parts department, if you will. But no, I don't think value at all, especially as a whole machine. I mean, if you're pulling 40-year-old equipment out of a store and putting in 25-year-old equipment, like, I can't help you. I can't help you. Like you are like you are so far out in freaking left field, that like you're probably not going to want to hear anything I have to say. So I mean, I would say it has no value, but I would say it has very little value. And it also depends on the equipment. 25-year-old Waska mats, not to tout a brand, but 25-year-old Waska mats were just tanks. I mean, they were just absolutely phenomenal equipment. And there's other brands that 25 years ago were terrible. And then the flip side can be true too. So, I mean, you could buy brand new, this brand so great when maybe it used to be, or vice versa. But no, I don't think 25-year-old equipment would have much value at all. I think the other thing you asked was, are there used equipment brokers and stuff like that? I don't know if they're technically called brokers, but I mean, there's definitely companies that specialize in buying used equipment and refurbishing it. And, they have names for it that make it sound better. I think refurbished is one of the words they use a lot, and they dress it up and polish it and make it look nice. And some of them do a really good job. I'm not going to throw any particular company out there, but some of them do a really good job of actually refurbishing equipment. You're getting pretty good quality, and you'll usually be able to tell that by reputation and things like that. And then there's a lot of companies out there that say they're refurbishing equipment, and like they're just putting lipstick on a pig, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
They're not refurbishing equipment. Like, they're just putting Band-Aids on it. It's just, you're going to get to what you pay for. But I don't want to go into my diatribe about new equipment, but yeah, I don't think it has much value.
Yeah,
Thoughts?
I agree. And when I've retooled my store, I think one time I had a mechanic who had a connection, and I think they ended up paying me a couple $100 for each machine. And the other time, the installer hauled it away and gave me like $100 a machine. So
Yeah.
I probably could have like gotten a little bit more from those, but it would have been more work trying to do it. And I definitely wasn't going to spend the time to part it out and try to sell parts or something like that. That's
Right.
It's just not what I do. And so it's not worth my time. If you can find somebody who does that, awesome. If not, if you can get a little something for it, take the edge off the new equipment, awesome. If not, hey, the bigger thing, right, is looking for ways to add value with the assets that you have, right? Putting in new equipment. So look for ways to maximize your income based off that. Because even if you get a little bit of money for that used equipment, you can do better than that if you spend your time trying to, build your business and utilize the new assets that you have coming in.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. Listen, I'm gonna drop away for a second. My computer is dying. I got to plug in the cord.
All right.
You're gonna lose me, and I'm gonna lose everybody.
I'll
gotta
keep
talk
it
for a second.
That's right. I'll keep rolling. So let me look. Talking about vetting lawyers and accountants. Somebody asked about vetting lawyers and accountants, and I think that's a good question. My response to that is, talk to the people who would know that, right? If there are other business owners, it doesn't have to be laundromat owners, but if there are other business owners that you can go to get recommendations for accountants and for lawyers, that's going to be your best bet in terms of trying to find a good lawyer to work with if you need one, or a good accountant to work with if you need one. In terms of finding an accountant, I would say look for one that has experience. If you're going to use an accountant for something, look for one that has experience in small business and or real estate, because they're going to get what you're doing, and they're gonna know the nuances more than maybe a general accountant would, in terms of the tax code for businesses, for small businesses, tax code for investments like that, which is what you'd probably want an accountant for, generally speaking. Bookkeeping also, but you're looking to utilize the tax code the way the tax code was meant to be utilized, and a good accountant that understands business accounting and small business accounting in particular. And I find that a lot of accountants, I work with an accountant that does a lot of real estate investment accounting, and he has a pretty good understanding of how the tax code works for small business owners, real estate investors, that kind of thing. So I'd say that's probably what you're looking for. So find people in your area who are business owners, who are real estate investors, who can point you to those people and get referrals as much as possible. That's how I've had the best luck finding. As a secondary, if you don't have anybody like that, you can use like Google reviews, and if you really have to, you have no other option, then maybe you could use like Yelp. But only
don't say it. Don't say it.
Only if you're desperate.
That's a legalized mafia.
Dude, yeah. I was just talking about
I saw that question I saw that
Brutal.
question earlier, and I was wanting to get to it, so I'm glad you grabbed that one. I'm not going to add a whole lot, but I think one of the things I'll say that you hit on, that I'm just going to emphasize, is the fact that they are practicing in business. Because a lot of people don't understand, attorneys and accountants, by the way, is those that specialize in business and understand business. It's a totally different game. It's a totally different game, and the best usually charge accordingly. So just like any industry, great distributor, great plumber, whatever, they know they're good, and they usually are turning away business because they get so much business because they're so good. So you got to be willing to pay them, but you definitely have to be willing to vet them too. Don't use Yelp. Holy cow, that's terrible.
Yeah, Taylor. Yeah, dude, Yelp is just brutal.
Got suckered by Yelp again. Oh,
yeah.
Geez.
We were setting up John and I were setting up a Yelp business account for one of our clients, and we were just commenting on how they advertise competitors on your website, and you have to pay Yelp to take it off.
Get them off.
It's like, dude, this is, oh gosh, it's so, and they hound you if you don't advertise with it. Oh gosh, man. Yelp.
Yeah, it's bad.
There's a cool conversation happening I'd like to tap into. Rigoberto asked a question. He's got a laundromat he's had for a while. It's newly retooled within the last couple of years, but somebody just built a huge complex, like 1,000 feet from his laundromat, 280 units. They have in-unit laundry, it looks like. And so he's wondering how you can kind of tap into that market. And there's already been some like really great suggestions from Stacy and Daryl and some others. But I thought maybe we could kind of chime in on ways to, that he could kind of tap into that new fresh market there. Got anything for him?
Oh my gosh. I could go the rest of the time about this alone. And I may. No, I'm kidding. Everybody's like,
I'll cut them off, people. Don't worry. Well, I'm here.
So, I mean, I'm reading some of the comments here, and those are great comments. Do you offer full service, pickup and delivery? I mean, what I'll tell you is I'm just going to go a little bit bigger because this applies to so many things, and I think is helpful in a lot of ways. And I pound this all the time. So if you ever listen to anything I say it all the time, but look for market differentiators. In-home laundry service, in-home washers and dryers is a competitor. That's all it is. It's a competitor. It's a competitor. But look for market differentiators of how can you differentiate from them. Obviously, providing labor by doing pickup and delivery or doing drop-off. That's a differentiator because last I checked, the machines don't load themselves and they don't fold the laundry. So that's a differentiator.
It's the folding, man. It's the folding.
Yeah. I mean, no two services are the same, right? I mean, for that matter, no two washers are the same. They may have in service, in single family homes have washer dryer hookup. Most people have washer dryers in their home. I bet I have, I'm not exaggerating, I bet 15 to 20% of my self-serve revenue is people bringing in bedding, pillows, and comforters to do themselves. Why do they do that? Because they don't fit in their residential washer and dryer. And if they figure out how to fit them in, meaning put them in what shouldn't be put in, they'll destroy them. Because residential washers and dryers, I don't care how much you pay for them, they're pretty much all garbage nowadays. They're horribly built in every aspect of the industry that I know of, terrible. And so people may try it. They may try to put their comforter in there and it may rip it because it's too big. They may put it in there, and they may put a pillow in there or something, and it may destroy their machine because it's all plastic and just a terrible design. Obviously, things like designing your laundromat to be more user-friendly, just for a self-serve perspective, like having bigger machines. You put 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, 100-pound machines in, that's a differentiator because I probably own 250, 300 washers and dryers. I'm in the laundromat business. And I don't have an 80-pound machine in my house. Like,
That would
I
be
mean, nobody
awesome.
does. That
Yeah,
would be kind of cool.
would be.
But yeah, so then I would start marketing and everyone would come knocking on my door wanting to use my mega loader and it would be bad.
Right.
Anyway,
Raise
so really
prices.
a lot of what I try to do when I answer questions, whether it's on this or for coaching, is a lot of what I try to do is teach like mentalities and how to think through things to make your own decisions. And so that I guess that's a little bit of what I'm doing here. And you can
Mhm.
take this to a lot of different aspects, but look for market differentiators. No competitor is the same as you. I don't care if they're a laundromat or they're an apartment laundry room, or they're in a unit. It doesn't matter. They have advantages over you. Being convenient is usually one of them. But you have advantages over them. Figure out what those are, create more of them, and then market them. Tell people why you're different, why they should come across the street to your modernized laundromat.
Mhm.
That's my answer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And, kind of to put a little more specifics on it, I mean, I think, especially in terms of differentiation, is in convenience, the way that you can compete with that convenience is by having a drop-off service or a
Sure.
pickup service. And especially if it's 1,000 feet away, you could craft a pickup service for that, that you can make very efficient for yourself and your employees, and you can make very cost effective, and for your customers, right? Where they're getting that convenience and you're getting the business, and it doesn't matter if it's in the house. It's more convenient to have somebody else doing your laundry than to do it yourself at your own house. So,
Mhm.
which, yeah, man.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Hey, I got one
awesome.
here.
Yeah.
Maxwell Hill. He says, "What's the minimum amount of working capital someone should have on hand to feel comfortable when first getting started? A few months rent? Question mark.
Yeah. So I'm assuming you mean after you buy everything and you buy your quarters and you've done your deposits, and how much money do you need to have
Good
in
point.
your fund after, is what I will assume you mean, because those are expenses, outside of purchasing the laundromat, that you're going to need to account for. Um,
Substantial.
and yeah, and they are substantial. Like, we're talking thousands of dollars for quarters, probably thousands of dollars for utilities. My LA Department of Water and Power deposit was like 10 grand or something, which is
Yep.
insanity.
Mhm.
But that's what it is. And so you need to have those. And then, it it depends, right? There's different ways to get into this business. I think, when some people get in, they don't really have any working capital. They're depending on that business, and it's kind of, it puts that pressure on them, and it's make or break. Now, I mean, I'll say that there's a risk factor in that, right? Like, if something goes wrong early on and you don't have any working capital, or at least credit to be able to handle that, that could sink you right off the bat, right? So obviously, the more capital you have, the less risky it will be. I think, I mean, if you could have 3 months worth of expenses, I think you're in pretty decent shape. But again, it really depends on what you're walking into. Are you walking into a turnkey, laundromat? Are you putting a lot of work into it? Is there a lot of older stuff that might be breaking down? You're going to have expenses coming up. There's a lot of factors that play into it. But if I was just going to kind of say ballpark, you know, I'd, I'd probably want 3 months of expenses, and probably more than that if possible, but at least. And I would say anything below that, your level of risk just goes up. And I wouldn't say that to discourage anybody from getting in the business, but it's risky.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great answer. I mean, I'm glad you picked up on that because I don't think I would have answered that question that way. And I do think that's his question. So I'm glad you picked up on that. I would have read that as before entering the industry, like buying a store and that type of, and I would have answered probably not what he's asking. You picked up on it too, but I mean, his question is what's the minimum? I think 3 months is pretty scarce, but minimum, yeah. I mean, I can't imagine having less than 3 months working capital. But I agree. You should you should probably have more like lines of credit and credit cards and home equity lines of credits. And I'm not necessarily saying like you don't want to tap into those things, but you know, when it comes to working capital, the technical definition of that is cash. At least my definition of that would be cash. There are a lot of options available. There was a time where I had no working capital. I had poured every penny I had in my business. But I had $3,000 or $4,000 a month in income from my personal expenses that I could throw at my business every month. So, I mean, as long as I didn't have more than $3,000 or $4,000 a month in unexpected expenses, I could, in theory, go forever, if that makes sense. And then I had, a credit card with a $25,000 credit limit, and no balance. You got to pay that back. I'm not suggesting you don't, but I mean, when people talk about security and things like that, I think that's a lot of times really what they're asking. And so really what you do is put yourself in a position where you can go as long as possible. And, I think COVID proved that, probably more important than ever, with some of us taking a 40-50% hit overnight, in our business and not knowing how long that would last. But yeah, I think a minimum of 3 months is, and I'm going to stress the word minimum. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that would be expenses, not just rent.
Yes, correct.
That's what I would say. So,
Yes.
I mean, again, you can do less. It's just your risk level goes up pretty dramatically the less money you have. So if you want to be safe, the more the better. But sometimes, I mean, sometimes people just need to get their foot in the door, and they're willing to take a bigger risk and just go for it. And so I don't ever want to discourage somebody from doing that, but I would say, hey, don't do that on your own. At least, have some people supporting you. I mean, we kind of talked about this already, but yeah, so your level of risk goes up. I think Daryl asked, what's the hardest thing about scaling? Like when you were scaling your business, maybe from one store to two to three, et cetera, maybe you pick up a delivery. What are some of the things that were difficult about that, or things that people should know about scaling a laundromat?
Wow. Yeah, a lot there too.
Yeah.
Geez. Yeah. So, the hardest thing about it is something that took me a while to figure out. And for those of you that don't know me, I don't claim to be Bill Gates or anything, but I've done a pretty good job of starting with very little and in scaling and building a fairly substantial business on a, shoestring budget. And one of the things that I've learned is to make all of your decisions, make all of your decisions based on a 2 to 3 year out time frame. And so if you do that, including your decision making today, then usually not hyper focused on your profitability today, but you're willing to invest in the future. So, one thing that comes to mind that's probably number one is over hiring, investing in retaining your best talent and investing in bringing on new talent. Because that's not only it's not a science, it's an art. And it's a lot of times you hire somebody, like sometimes you think you know what you got in month 2, but you don't. But it's pretty tough to mask a good, bad, or indifferent person on your team over, let's call it a 12 or 18 month period of time. They're usually going to show their true colors, is my point. And so you got to make decisions and plan for that. And that includes, aside from your people, that includes processes and procedures. Are you building scalable businesses that 12 to 18 months out are going to put your team in, are you building a well-oiled machine, or are you triaging your business? So once again, I don't know if I'm answering the question on a small scale, but I would say your people is probably the most important thing. And this is speaking from experience. I mean, I have a pretty labor intensive business. So my people and my management, my training, I mean, if you're Luke Williford, for example, and you got a bunch of, they're not unattended, but he doesn't have a labor intensive business, is my point. I'm not suggesting the people aren't important. And trust me, if he's on here, he's screaming from the mountaintops how important his people is. My point is the more labor intensive business that you have, the more important your team is to your scalability, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would say the two main things in terms of scaling, the things that are toughest is number one. I mean, like you said, you want to have good people, and then number two, you want to have good systems in place, because what I've found that is if you don't have your systems nailed down and you start trying to add more businesses, it's just going to compound your problems.
Hmm.
Right. And some of that's probably going to happen to a degree anyways, because, when you start scaling, it starts to highlight what some of the issues are,
Hmm.
and you need to fix them. But if you're not doing, if you're not running things the best that they can be run, the best that you can run them, and you start scaling, it's only going to compound your nightmare. Right.
Hmm.
So good
Yeah,
people, good systems in place.
that's a fantastic point. Sorry to interrupt. That's a fantastic point, because I think one of the things we have to look at is that, especially in our industry, which is what we're talking about in the laundromat industry, a lot of people build businesses around themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They build a self-employment, they build a job rather than a business. And
Mm-hmm.
you can do that to a certain level.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to reach that level where you can't do that anymore, because I don't care how great of a person you are, how smart you are. If you haven't built processes, procedures, and a scalable team, then it's eventually your business is going to eventually outscale you. And if you are your business, then it's going to come crashing down, or you're going to have to regress and say, well, I can't buy that fifth store or sixth store. Or if I did buy that fifth store or sixth store, you might realize 3 months after closing that I need to turn around and sell because I can't
Mm-hmm.
do this. When that kind of goes back to, why you need to plan 2 or 3 years out. But yeah, that's a great point, because I think a lot of people do that. And quite honestly, I think it's from just I don't know if maybe naivete is the right word. A lot of people, I don't claim to be a sophisticated business owner, but I'm just kind of obsessed with repeatable, scalable processes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think a lot of people that get into small business, what worked, and I think you said this, what worked at store 1 and 2 and maybe even 3, or what worked at 100 pounds a day of wash, dry, fold, doesn't work at 1,000 pounds a day of wash, dry, fold in some cases. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think we a lot of times lull ourselves in this false sense of security, in a sense of, well, this is what I've always done and it worked. Well, you never took into account, is this scalable? And especially when it comes to you, because a lot of small businesses, the owner is the rock star, not a rock star, but the rock star.
Mm-hmm.
And you're one human being. And I don't care how hard you work and how many hours a week you work, you are limited by that capacity. I was really lucky, because I don't know that anyone even taught me that. I just figured it out really quickly early on. I think part of it's because I had a full time. So, like, really quickly, I realized I can't be here all the time. And so I got to figure out what's an alternative, because early on for me, quitting my job wasn't an option. And so I had to start thinking that way really quickly. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of us business owners don't, if we have the luxury of, like, day one being a full time business owner. That's kind of what I mean by kind of getting lulled into that false sense of security that is wise and smart and works and is scalable, because it is maybe wise and it is maybe smart, but it's not scalable.
Yeah, I've been rereading the E Myth Revisited,
Oh yeah.
another hugely
Jeez.
influential book. I just started
Yes.
rereading it on my Remarkable 2, which I, was bragging about earlier.
Do you have an
But
affiliate link for that?
I should. It's awesome. It's awesome. I'll put one in the description. Man, that's a good idea. But in that book, they were talking about how when entrepreneurs, they go in one of two directions, when they do this, when they're trying to scale, is they scale and they start seeing all these problems, and so they either try to, like, put their pedal to the metal and
Yeah.
try to ramp things up faster, or they get smaller.
Yep.
And kind of what you were saying is, hey, think 2 or 3 years out, don't put the pedal to the metal, get your stuff situated and scale when it's appropriate. Because those are, and I see this happen all the time, right? Like, I have too many laundromats, I got to get rid of them.
Yep.
Or
That's right. That's
or
exactly
I'm
right.
going big and I'm going home, and I'm going to buy 5 of them all at once, and that rarely works out, too, kind of implodes. So
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. No doubt about it.
uh
Um,
you have any advice for people, who want to start a wash, dry, fold, how you can kind of get employees on board or how to incentivize employees. Somebody had asked that question. I thought that was a good question.
Yeah, I think there's typically two parts to that. One of them is a wash, dry, fold in a sense of a drop off service.
Mm-hmm.
And in that case, you're usually talking about an attendant, who also has other responsibilities. And in my case, we run a drop off laundry service in our stores, and it's very profitable and does very well. But make no mistake, my attendants know that their primary responsibility is cleanliness and customer service for self serve customers first. But drop off service is certainly important. Um, so I think that's more of like an employment question as far as hiring quality people and retaining them, and building proper bonus structures to incentivize them in the right way. But balancing their compensation schedule in a way where they understand where their priorities are, for sure. When it comes to like scaling more of a high volume drop off service or pickup and delivery or something like that, now you're talking of more of what I refer to as a laundry processor versus a store attendant, meaning that their only responsibility is doing laundry. They don't
Mm-hmm.
do customer service. They don't, in our case, I mean, they work third shift. The store's closed. They're not cleaning. You have to motivate them, incentivize them in a little bit different way, because you're motivating them to do one thing, and that is, well, two things with one product, which is quality control and speed. And those are the two things that are motivating factors. So your compensation schedule should be set up in the same way. And then the last thing I'll say about that is the training has to correlate with that. So you can't, I worked in corporate America for 17 years, and I can't tell you how many hundreds of times I said, you tell me one thing, meaning the corporation, you tell me
Mm-hmm.
one thing, but then you do something different. Like your actions don't suggest what your words are telling me. And for
Mm-hmm.
example, I was at a sales job one time that they wanted to, or I was in a customer service job that they were masking as a sales job. And they said, oh, customer service is the most important thing. But 50% of your pay is based on your revenue sales. And by the way, if your customer service score is good, but you don't meet your sales metrics, you'll lose your job. And so I went, well, what happens if the other's true? What if my customer service is terrible, but I meet my sales quota? Will I lose my job? No.
Right.
Okay.
Just a sales job.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, right. So let's just call it what it is. And so I think that also happens a lot in small business unintentionally. Is that we say one thing, but our business structure is set up in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Awesome advice. Hey, somebody wants to know when you're doing part 3 of your payment system video. What's up, man?
Yeah, I
You
saw
on
that.
schedule?
I meant to get that. I appreciate you asking that. Yeah, the delay on that is part 3 of the payment system. I have some video coming from someone that is going to help me out because I don't have that type of payment system. And so when someone's doing you a favor, you got to kind of wait on them and not pressure them,
Do we need to
if
put
that
them
makes
on
sense.
blast? I'll pressure them for you.
No, I would
Oh,
never
we're
do that.
waiting on your content, man.
But one of the things and I appreciate that, and I definitely want to get it out. But one of the things I'll tell you is I'm not when you have a YouTube channel, stuff like that, I'm not a big fan of like just going into random stores and starting the video. I just don't think it's cool, and I wouldn't want people to do it in my store, even if you are just recording the payment system. There's no harm. I just wouldn't do that. And so I don't have a store with a loyalty card system. And so I have to rely on someone else. So if somebody wants to send me some video on that, reach out to me because I'm happy to do that. But the other thing I'll say is he says I'm going, or I'm not sure if it's he or she. They say I'm going to put in a card system and would love to hear your review on them. So the other thing I'll tell you is I think maybe your expectation is a little different because I'm not going to review specific products. So if that's what you're waiting on, you're gonna be disappointed anyways. I'm not going to review like all the different payment systems. That's really not, or let me rephrase that. The payment product, as far as like this company versus this company, my my series on payment system is really based on the different types of payment systems, not the different brands, if that makes sense. So the last part of the question makes me think that maybe they're wanting to hear what I think of X company and Y company and Z company, who all offer a loyalty card system, and they want to hear which I would think is best. And you're not going to get that. That's not what this is. That's not what this is about. But thanks for asking, and thanks for following my channel. I mean, I absolutely appreciate it. So I hope, to answer your question, hopefully it'll be out in the next month. But if that's what you're looking for, don't wait on me.
I got to tell you,
yeah.
Going back to our $quarter coin, I just thought of a huge advantage of the quarter stores is that nobody wants to watch you collect dollar coins. They want to see you make it rain with quarters on YouTube, because apparently collecting quarters is like the new rage on YouTube, where you get millions of views for doing that. So nobody
I don't
wants.
understand
If
that
you
for
want
life of
video of
me.
me collecting quarters, I'll send that over to you, no problem.
We'll put it
It's
on your
crazy.
YouTube channel. You'll go viral, apparently.
Yeah, no
No,
kidding.
I agree. It is. I've seen it many times, and I
Yeah.
don't
I don't know. Who
understand it. And
wants this money, man?
if you look at the comment section, I don't even think the viewers understand, because I've read a lot of the
Yeah.
comments. They're
They're
like,
all like, I
why
don't
did
know
I
how
just
much
watch
it
this
is.
dude collect quarters for 30 minutes? What am I doing with my life? I thought
But
that
they
was
do
kind of
it.
funny. They
Yeah.
do. I mean, I guess it is kind of enthralling.
Yeah.
So anyway,
But,
listen,
yeah.
Vise, we got 10 minutes left. Pound some more questions in, and we're going to try to get to them before the very end. If you weren't here at the very, very beginning, I have launched the Laundromat Millionaire Business Podcast. Please check it out. And hopefully get some value out of that. Jordan's got a podcast. He doesn't have near as many episodes as me. I have 4. He has 52, by the way. So I'm running chasing him, and if you look at me and look at him, me chasing him is kind of comical. But anyway, yeah, he's doing a lot of great stuff. Check it out. His episode number 52, his most recent one that he released, had Brian Wallace, president and CEO of the CLA. Even if you know the guy and you've talked to him for hours, you know that he has a ton of value, even outside of those conversations you had with him. And you're going to get a ton of value out of this for sure. So be sure to check that out.
It's a good one.
Jordan, do you want to give them our next live event?
Yeah,
It's going to be on Jordan's. It's going to be on Jordan's YouTube channel. By the way, this is the Laundromat Millionaire YouTube channel, and we alternate this every month. So at 1 month he hosts it, 1 month I host it. So yeah, when's the next date?
That'll be on the Laundromat Resource YouTube channel. That's going to be May 19th, 4 o'clock Best Coast time, 7 o'clock p.m. Beast Coast time. So yeah, May 19th. 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock, same time, same bat time, same bat channel. May 19th, put it on your calendar. We'll be sending out reminders and stuff as we get closer, but just wanted to let you guys know that is coming up. A couple more questions. Do you think we can take a couple
Don't forget
more?
to tell your friends, by the way. Don't forget to tell other people.
Yes.
We appreciate you guys being here, and some of you are like crazy loyal, and you guys are just awesome, and thank you for supporting us. But don't forget to tell other people, because this is free. Like, nobody's charging anything. Nobody's selling. I mean, Jordan's trying to sell these little widgets, this little tablet thing for some reason tonight. He's got the sales pitch on. But other than that, his affiliate link. Other than that, nobody's trying to sell you anything. So listen, tell your friends, tell your family. I mean, anybody that's interested in laundromats, we don't want to bore people if they're not. But check that out. Tell your friends, share it when you get the links. Tell them to subscribe to Jordan's YouTube channel, and they'll get the alerts and things like that. And just share it. If you're talking to someone on the phone, text them, let them know, that type of stuff. Because we're just genuinely trying to help people. We don't have any ulterior motive. But yeah, did you have a question? I interrupted you. We got 8 minutes.
Yeah, there's a couple questions left. Well, Max just asked a great question, I thought. Preferable to see an asset purchase or an equity purchase? There's some big implications. I don't know. You want to take it? You want me to take it?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. I feel like I've been talking a lot.
Yeah, no, first of all, I'll just say, we're not lawyers. We're not CPAs. We're not advising you. I'll talk about my experience, and I'll give some of the pros and cons of them. In my experience, there's some big cons to an equity purchase that has made me want to avoid an equity purchase in the past and pursue an asset purchase. A couple of things that I would say. Number one is, when you do an equity purchase, you're also purchasing any liabilities of that company. So if there's a lawsuit that comes down the pipe, you're on the hook for that lawsuit now because you've made an equity purchase. So that in and of itself was enough for me to be like, whoa, like, do I yeah, do I want to take that on? Probably not in this situation. The other thing that's a pretty big deal actually is the depreciation schedule of your equipment. If you do an equity purchase, that equipment might be completely depreciated tax-wise, and basically that allows you to take a portion of your machine cost and count it as an expense for that year on your taxes. So that's depreciation. If you do an equity purchase, some or all of that equipment cost may have already run its depreciation course, and so there may not be a tax advantage there for you. But if you do an asset purchase, it resets that, and so you have a new depreciation schedule on that asset. So those are a couple of things to be thinking about. Generally speaking, coming from the broker side of things, we generally do an asset purchase or bulk transfer. I don't think I've ever done an equity purchase of a laundromat that I can think of. I don't know if you want to contradict me or add or subtract anything.
No, no, I think that's right on. And I'm trying to think of a situation where you would do an equity purchase, and I'm certainly not a lawyer or an accountant. I can't think of one, to be honest with you, but I mean, maybe there's something I'm not aware of. I mean, I haven't, I've helped a
Yeah.
lot of people with these, but I always also refer them to their attorney. The two things I'll say, one of them is when you get advice from an attorney, from an accountant, from a broker, whoever that is, I think it's really important to just remember the context of their advice. Because if you ask an accountant, they're giving you the context of an accountant. What I mean by that is they're looking at tax ramifications. They're not looking at liability ramifications, because that's not what an accountant does. But if you ask an attorney, he's not looking at, or she isn't looking at tax ramifications, because they're not an accountant. And so I think a lot of people say, well, my attorney told me to. It's like, well, I mean, he's giving you legal advice. That's what attorneys do. They give you legal advice. They don't give you tax advice usually, and shouldn't unless they're an accountant. They'll usually refer you to an accountant. So just find where your advice is coming from. The other thing I'll say is I actually have encountered recently with a coaching client of mine. I don't know, a little bit of a unique situation. And what he had done is his accountant had recommended that he do an asset purchase. And even when you talk about like goodwill, like the equipment versus goodwill and branding and things like that, and they had told him for tax purposes throw all the purchase price on the equipment. Well, the equipment was I think 23 years old. And so he took out a loan for the acquisition of the equipment. I think it was $150,000, $200,000. He threw it all on the equipment, which meant that was the collateral for the acquisition cost. And then a year later, he took out an equipment loan to replace all the equipment with new equipment, and the bank wouldn't release his old equipment. So he couldn't get rid of it. It didn't have value, but because he told them for tax purposes that it did, and that was their collateral. He basically said this equipment's worth $200,000. And so they gave him a loan based on that. And then a year later, he said, it's not worth anything. I'm throwing it in the scrapyard and putting all the equipment in here. And so his bank was going, whoa, you can't do that. That's our collateral. You literally can't take that equipment out of your store. And so he was in this like really strange dynamic of like this catch-22, all because of tax ramifications and what he was trying to do.
Yeah.
So you got to think through the whole process, and you have to give that picture to the person giving you the advice and say, this equipment isn't 2 years old. This is 20 years old, and I'm probably going to want to get rid of it. So can I put a little bit on it, 20%, because anytime you make any decision in a vacuum, like a lot of times it's going to come back to bite you. Once you've done it, you really can't do he's in a pickle. He's basically going to have to like find $200,000 uncollateralized somewhere, and pay off that loan just so he can buy equipment and finance it, and get basically permission to take it out of the store. It's a really weird situation. And I had never really thought about it, but it actually makes total sense. So anyway, just think through it, get good legal advice, and think about the context of where the advice is coming from.
Yeah, and what I do personally, what we do with our Diligent Capital Investment, our investment group that goes out and buys laundromats and real estate, what I encourage my coaching clients to do is to have, if you're going to consult with a lawyer and a CPA, don't be the go-between between them.
Yeah.
Have them talk to each other. And that's
Agree.
what I encourage you to do if you're going to be going that route, because when they talk to each other, they can work out the nuances. And if you're playing telephone between the two of them, things are going to get lost in translation. And your best bet is to pay them an extra hour or two or whatever it takes to have a conversation together to craft the correct structure for your business.
Yep.
That's the best
It's a
advice
big
I can
picture.
say.
It's a big picture. And I've actually, I have great attorney and CPA now. But in the past I had ones that were probably good, not great. And I've had some that when I asked them to do that, they wouldn't do it. They literally were like, I mean, it wasn't a matter of me paying them an hour or two. They were like, I'm not going to get in a room with a CPA and argue with them over taxes and liability and all this. I was like, what do you mean you won't do it? Like, I mean, you don't understand what I'm trying to do? And that told me right then and there, they were an experienced business attorney. Like, they didn't know what they were talking about if they weren't willing to do that. I mean, that's in everybody's best interest. And they didn't even understand the concept. So it ended up being just kind of a paper pusher, basically.
Yeah.
Anyway, listen, guys, time's up. Thanks so much for joining us. Don't forget to tell people about this and that it's free and that we're just trying to help people. We probably will have some guests on in the future for sure. So stay tuned. Check those things out. Yeah, thanks for being with us today. Appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
Jordan, you want to give them that date and time one more time?
May 19th, 4 o'clock West Coast time, 7 o'clock East Coast time. Thanks again, guys. This has been awesome. Again, in the chat, by far the best part of this whole thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for helping each other out in there. And you guys had some fantastic, like super high quality questions. Quantity isn't always what we're looking for because we can't get to them all anyways. But man, you guys were killing it today. Thanks for bringing the value. Thanks for joining us. And don't forget to like our YouTube channels, check out our podcasts, give us feedback. I mean, I guess I shouldn't speak for Jordan, but give me feedback. Dave at laundromat-millionaire.com. Send me an email if I can help you guys out in any way. Obviously I have one-on-one coaching services. I offer a 20-minute free consulting call to anyone. If you've already had one, sorry, you only get one. But I offer a 20-minute free call to anyone. So if I can help you out, no ulterior motives, not trying to sell you anything, just happy to jump on the phone and talk and help you as much as I can for 20 minutes. Jordan's got his webinars. He's got his forum on Laundromat Resource. He's got his podcast. He's got his YouTube channel. Don't forget to check out episode 52 with Brian Wallace. What am I missing?
You're missing all yours. I mean, listen, guys, this guy is the man. So, I mean, get involved in all he's doing. I know he's got a lot of really cool stuff coming up. So you're going to want to be following him, laundromat-millionaire.com. Make sure you're on his YouTube channel, subscribing to his podcast. And in fact, if you found a lot of value, especially in what Dave was saying, the biggest way I think that you can thank him is to go to your favorite podcast player, Apple Podcasts, wherever, and give his podcast a rating and review. That really will help him out as he's launching his podcast and helping to get that out there. That'll help him out a lot. So if you really want to say thanks to Dave for everything that he's done for this industry and for you guys here on this Q&A and everything else that he's doing, that's a really great way to say thank you to him, is go to your favorite podcast player, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, wherever. Give him a rating, give him a review on his podcast, and help him get that thing launched the right way. So thank you guys again. Dave, thanks for letting me be a part of this with you, man. Always, always, always a pleasure. Humbled to be doing anything with Dave Laundromat Millionaire.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, guys. May 19th, 2021, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Best Coast Time. You're welcome, Jordan.
Thank you.
See you guys. Thanks.
We'll see you guys.
We'll see you next month.